this work. So, in an ideal world, the children that you're reading with should come over to you with their book that is at the right level that they've been given by their teacher. And they should read that book to you. You should have a chat about it, ask some questions, help them if they've got a bit stuck with their decoding, and then you would read a book to the child. But we all know that that doesn't happen for every child. And some children need a bit more than that to even start reading with you. Particularly when you first start reading with a child, you might just need to spend a bit of time building your relationship with that child, or you might need to find other ways to break up their session. So I'm going to talk through some slides, and then there's going to be an opportunity for you to ask questions and also to share things that have really worked with you, because I don't have all the answers. My job was I was a teacher before this, and I worked as a deputy, and I've always done lots of reading interventions, and I know that every single reader is slightly different. And I've worked with 10-year-olds who struggle to sound out a single word, and I've also worked with children who can read every single word but have got no idea what's going on. So, there's very, very different readers. What we're trying to do is get a child who can actually read, they understand what they're reading, and they love reading. That's the outcome we're trying to get. So I'm just going to share some slides, which I'm hoping will come up. Let's see. There we go. Hopefully you should see a slide that says word games. So if you have a child who really doesn't want to come and read with you or is very reluctant to read their book to you, there's a number of things you can do. You can start by saying, well, why don't I read to you first? Why don't we change the order of what we're doing? And then hopefully by the time you finish reading that book, they'll have calmed down a little bit, they'll be feeling safer, and they'll be ready to challenge themselves. But something that we can do is we can intersperse the reading that the child's doing with some simple games that don't need many resources. For some children, they really struggle to sit still for very long, so they need things that are physical. And some children, and that means for some children, they literally need to get out of their seat and jump around. And then for other children, it's enough to be sort of splatting things with their hands. One thing that you could do is you should all have a whiteboard and a pen in your packs. You could, with a child who was very reluctant to read with you, come up with a little timetable that they could draw or write, or you could. So this is just one I've just quickly done. I don't know how easily you can see it, but it just says that read 6 pages. So this would be the child would read 6 pages, then we'll play a game, then you read 6 pages, and then I read to you. Now, for some children, that will be fine if you sort of say, right, we're going to negotiate and this is what we're going to do today. So you will read me parts of your story, but then we'll play a game. Then you'll read the next part and this. But some children will need more control than that. And they might say, well, actually, I want you to read to me first, then play a game, then I'll read to you. And we need to then say, well, I'll read the book to you, then you read, then I'll play a game, then we'll do that. So you can mix it up a little bit, but sometimes they just need that control and want to feel that they're in charge of the session. So using your whiteboard to create a little picture timetable or some words can be quite useful for very reluctant children. So when you are reading with a child, you will notice that there are some words in English that can be sounded out using their phonetic knowledge. For example, moon, oo, n, or sh, e, p. But then in English, we've got many words that can't be sounded out and they need to be learnt by heart. Now, sometimes in most phonics schemes, we call these tricky words. They're sometimes called everyday words or common exception words. And these are words like people and because. And no matter how hard you try to sound those words out, you just can't. You just have to learn them. And then we've got these high frequency or sight words. And these are words that children shouldn't be sounding out because we expect them to know them. Because if they tried to sound them out each time, their reading would never be very fluent. So they might be words like look and had, I. They just need to, they can sound them out to begin with, but quite quickly, they just need to memorize those quite quickly because otherwise they're going to sound like robots the whole time. So those are the kind of words that you might come across. Most of our schools, so 8 out of the 9 schools that we read with use the little Wandle letters and sounds. And if you click on this, I'm hoping that you'll still be able to, can you now see something different? Little Wandle Vice. Yes, so this will tell you what sounds children should be learning in each half term. So if you've got a year one child and we're in spring one, no, we've gone into spring two now, haven't we? This is the first week of spring two. These are the things that they should be learning in their phonics sessions in class. Now, obviously, some children are going to be not at this level. So if you want to find out where there might be gaps, you might want to go back and look at, well, what should they have picked up in spring one or autumn two, or even going back to reception? And if you've got a child who really is at the beginning stages of learning to read, maybe they're a new arrival from another country, you can look back at what order we would teach it in. So you can see on the left-hand side, we've got the graphemes, those are the sounds. And on the right-hand side, the tricky words that we're just trying to get them to just remember quite quickly. So you can use those tricky words to make some word games that I'm going to show you in a moment. So you'll be sent these slides and then you'll be able to click on that and have a look at that if you want. Right, I'm just going to go back now. So the first slide I'm going to show you with some games is about bingo. I'm sure all of you know how to play bingo. I've put lots of photos in here of so these are my girls. They're now 9, but they were 3, 4 at this time when we were doing homeschooling. And so luckily I thought to take lots of photos and they've been very useful ever since to show things that worked for us. So you can just go onto Google and type in bingo for reception children or bingo for year one, first words they need to learn, and it will come up with things. But actually, you don't really need that because you've all got a whiteboard and pen, and it's very easy to quickly make bingo cards. You would need 2 of these, I suppose, if you were going to play with the child. Or you can just do it on scraps of paper. You don't need anything fancy to just do a grid. And then the words that you want your child to work on, you just write into these. So what you would do is if you're playing it with your child, obviously you can't be calling out the words, otherwise they'll accuse you of cheating. So what you can then do is just write the words that are on both of your whiteboards onto just little scraps of paper, post-it note, little cards, have them in a pile and take it in turns to turn it over and read them. Now, actually, this means that your child's actually reading all the words as well, but they don't realise they're doing it because they think they're playing a game of bingo. So they turn over the words, say you both look on your boards, have you got circle them if you've got them to see who wins. So that's a nice little game that you can play together. You can make it more fun if you want to by adding, if you're looking at the oi sound, you can cover the words with coins. And then this is just in the middle of photo is a slightly different version where I've just got the words on like a word ladder. And they just pick up a card and they see, does the word belong on their pile or your pile? So they would turn a word over, read the word, and then they would look and see which person has got that word and put it on the right side. And the first person to cover all their words up was the winner. So that's the first idea, is just some simple bingo games. And you will notice through here that things like the cardboard I've used here is just the back of cereal packets and bits of packaging. You don't need anything fancy. Similarly, if you've got some post-it notes or cut up pieces of paper or little cards, you can play 2 different games. So you would have maybe 4 or 5 words that you want the child to focus on. If you're not sure, you can ask the teacher, are there any particular sounds or words, but you will probably know which ones they're finding tricky in their books. Write the words 2 times. So you both have a set of cards. The set of cards will have the word in twice. And then for snap, you both take half the cards, turn them over. If they both say and you say it first, you get to keep those. I'm sure you all know how to play the game snap. And for pairs, you just put the cards out on the table with the word down and you take it in turns to turn over 2 cards. It's a bit like some of you might know it as the memory game. And so you just see, I got a the and an is. And then they have a go, I got because and said. And then you might get is. Oh, where did we see is last time? So it's a really good game for improving their memory, but also practicing reading. And you only need to do it with, 4 or 5 words that you want them to focus on. You can also do this with letter sounds if they're just at the beginning of learning to read. The next one is a lot of children really enjoy trying to beat records and beat the timer and splatting things, as I call it. So, first of all, you might have your list of words that you want the child to practice reading, or the sounds, and you say, right, I'm going to set a timer. Are you ready? Let's see if we can beat from last week. And then you're going to quickly go through them with them like that and see if they can do it. And then you could even say, why don't you test me and see if I can beat your time? And obviously, you make some mistakes and don't beat their time because we want to encourage confidence here. Word splat is basically hitting, jumping, or whacking words, and that can be done in all sorts of ways. So it can just be you having the words on the table and you call out a word and they've got to hit it with their hand as quickly as they can. If you want to make it fancy, you can bring in a fly swatter or a wand or a spatula, or get some tongs and get them to pick it up with that word. You can see one of the photos here that I put some words on some pots and pans and got the children to hit it with a wooden spoon. So they were sort of making noises whilst also playing and reading. So there's a lot of tricking children into reading when they think they're just playing games here. Oh, I'm not sure the volume is working. Okay, so I'll just explain what's happening in this video. So this is what I call word jumping, and this is where we just have the words and a character. This is just a little Paw Patrol character. It could be a teddy. It could be any kind of character you can pick up in a charity shop, or you might have at home, and they're just jumping on the words with the character. So it just makes. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to go back to the beginning of that video. Okay. So they're saying what this is one of my daughters. She's just saying the words. We were looking at the ear sound. Oh, and at the end there's a little helicopter. So this was Rubble's mode of transport. So she was trying to get him to the helicopter. But you can do it with all sorts of things. You don't have to have anything at the end. So that's word jumping, or you can get the children to physically jump on the words themselves as well. So this was one of my favourite activities I ever did with my twins. They absolutely loved it. So during COVID, I'm sure we were all getting a lot of deliveries sent home. This is some packaging that we had, which were like those kind of air bubbles. I don't remember what we bought. And I wrote the words that we were practicing on there. One of my twins has got quite poor fine motor skills. So I was trying to get her to practice jumping. They had to find the word, hold each other's hands and jump on the word and make it burst. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to do that in schools because I'm not sure the teachers would thank you for loud bangs coming from the corridors. But you can do that by just putting post-it notes on the floor and spacing them out, and even getting a child to just run a few steps and then jump on it. Here's some more word jumping. So here we've got some more figures. So this is another one I did that was the princess had to get the treasure away from the tower and get to her horse so she could escape from the tower. Here I put words on the stairs. We happen to be learning the air sounds. So I put them on the stairs and got them to march up and down the stairs saying those words. What was really lovely about that is I accidentally left them there. And then every time I heard them going up and down the stairs, they would just say the words. So it was just kind of this incidental learning that I hadn't even really planned for. And then this is a tiny bit of patio we had in our garden, and I just used chalk to write some sounds that we were focusing on, and I got them to run and jump on those as well. So that's word jumping. A few other things that have worked really nicely is if you need a child that needs, sorry, if you're working with a child that needs a movement break, they can't sit still for very long. Again, writing some instructions that they have to read on certain cards. It can be post-it notes, whatever you've got, and just writing very simple words. They've got to sound the word out and then do that action. And so they're still reading, but then they're actually moving around and doing something. So I've got spinning, march, roll, skip, star jumps, jump, and bunny hop there, and then just times that number. And so they can pick a card, do that, come back, pick another card, and then maybe they're ready to start reading again. Here I've got little bubble wrap, which you can write the sounds on if you want them to focus on a particular sound. You say the sound and then the child pops that sound only. That is something that you could do at your tables if you've got any bubble wrap in parcels that are coming through your door, because it won't make a big noise, but the children will love it. Now, another two things that I've been using in some workshops I've been doing in schools, and the children have absolutely loved them, is spy pens, invisible ink. I just got a set of these off Amazon. If anyone particularly wants one for their school, for their box, I can try and drop some off when I'm at the different schools doing events. And what you do is you write a word in that invisible ink, or you write a sentence, and then the child then takes the pen that has got a light fixed into it. Oh, there we go. Can you see that? And then if you hold it on here, I don't know if you can see that, but it says hello. They absolutely love it. So I've been giving these out at my workshops, and the parents are going to be writing the messages at home for them to read, and they're going to write messages back. So they're really cheap, really simple. You could write a message for your child to read, and they could write one back for you as well. And then the other thing that's been really lovely is I discovered these scratch foil stickers, which is a bit like if you're doing a lottery card. You write your words or your sentences. So I've just written a word on a card here. You take the sticker, you stick it on top, and then it covers it up. And then I've forgotten to get something now. I meant to get a coin. Oh, let's see if this works. And then you scratch it off. I'm just going to have to lean on something and show you afterwards. Scratching away, and then you can see the word underneath it. So again, I'm happy to order some of these. If people think they would you like to use them, just drop me or Helen an email, and we can drop off some spy pens and some scratch foil into your boxes for you to have a play with. This is another little game. I think it was Halloween, so I made some little ghost cups, and they've got little faces on them, but they've also got words. So I'm telling them the word, and they've got to find the ghost, and then they've got to try and knock it down. You can do this with a rolled up pair of socks instead of a ball or a bean bag, and just have a few cups there. I don't think it would be too disruptive in a school if you did that. If you've got a child that really does need something to bring their attention and make reading fun. This one's very simple. Again, I've got lots of words written on cards here. And then this is a lint roller where you get the bits of fluff off your clothing. And instead of me just saying, find me, said, find me because, they had to find the word, pick it up with the lint roller, and then put it in their pile. And that suddenly turned just reading into a game. You can do the same thing with a blob of blue tack and just get the kids to pick it up with that, or get a bit of sellotape and sort of roll it into a ball so it's sticky, get them to pick it up with that, or with some tongs. Okay, I'm just going to pause there for a moment and stop sharing. I will go back to that slide in a moment, but I just wanted to stop before we shared a few more ideas for engaging readers. Does anyone have any questions about the slides that I've shown you so far? You just take your mics off if you do want to, and just call out. No? Okay. So you will be sent all of those slides, and you can watch the videos with sound if you want at home. I'm going to move on to the last slide now, which is where we've gathered some ideas through various volunteer coffee mornings, where we've been talking to people about things that have worked in schools that either we've done or volunteers have done. So we had a lovely volunteer coffee morning in Tooting last week, and one of the volunteers brought her little duck that she brings. It's a soft toy, and she brought it along and said, oh, I get the child to read to this if they're feeling a bit nervous, and say, I think she calls it Daisy Duck. I said, oh, can you read to Daisy today? Don't worry about reading to me, read to Daisy. She wants someone to read to her, which I thought was a really lovely idea. So I'm just going to go back and share that last slide now, and then there'll be an opportunity for you to share anything that's worked for you in terms of engaging reluctant readers, and to ask any questions. Just going to go back to that. Sorry, I've just got to move something around on the screen. Okay. So a few of the things that have worked for people over time is stickers. I think most of you have got stickers in your boxes. Some children are very motivated by stickers, or you could create a little star chart where you keep a piece of paper, write their name at the top, and then each week you write or draw a little star, or you put a sticker on there, and you hold on to that so that it's not just something that goes onto their jumper, but they can see over time how many stickers they've got. Some children need a timer. So just like as we talked about, some children needing a kind of visual timetable. For other children, they just need to know that they've got to do it for a certain amount of time and then they can have a break. And so you might say, I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes, or I'm going to, you might have to ask the schools for a sand timer or something. Um, and then they know, or you could just even look at the clock and say, it's 1 o'clock now. At 5 minutes past one, we're going to stop and play a game, but you do have to read for that 5 minutes. If we stop, I'll keep adding the time onto the clock. Share the reading. So sometimes you reading a page, them reading a page, them reading 2 pages, you reading 2 pages is better than them not reading at all. Playing games we've already talked about. Start with reading with them. So as well as them reading to you, it's really important that these children have the experience of having a book read to them, because we know from all the research shows that parents are not reading to their children as much at home. I mean, it's actually astounding that something like 50% of 0 to 2-year-olds are not being read to every day. I mean, I'm sure for all of us here, we just can't imagine. I mean, if I only ever got away with reading one book, it was more like 10 to 20 books a day. But it's really sad that this isn't happening. And then I've been at workshops where I've had, say, 20 year three parents, and I've said, put your hands up if you still read to your child. There are only 7 or 8, these children. 1, 2 parents put their hands up. And I was going, you need to read to them for as long as they'll let you. Like, I get that teenagers won't let you, but do it for as long as they will, because they get so much from it. So many of the children that you're reading to will not ever have an adult read purely just to them. They might hear a story in class, but even that is being pushed out of the curriculum more and more. So that is a really important part, but also it's a really nice way of relaxing the child and building your relationship. I'm sure you all are, but being very positive, trying to find out what your child is interested in. So I know, Susan, you've come to me in the past and said, oh, my child really loves, I think it was an atlas, and I love it when our volunteers say to me or Helen, oh, my child really loves football or Minecraft or funny books or poetry. And then I love going and finding the perfect books for those children and dropping them off to your reading boxes. So please do feel free to say. So find out what your child's interested in, because sometimes it is about finding the right book for that child. And once they realize that books can be interesting because they can be about football, or I did another event the other week where I had a group of boys at the front who all told me they didn't enjoy reading. But then when I held up the books that were Minecraft jokes and world records for gaming and the football things, and then the funny books, and I read them a little bit of it, they couldn't get their hands on them quickly enough. So sometimes it's just about them realizing that reading is not just phonics books. It's not just the classic books that maybe their parents want them to read. There are books out there for everyone. We've just got to find it. Make sure the book is at the right level. Now, this should be being done for you, but we know that things don't always happen, and routines aren't followed in every school. We've got a school at the moment where the children aren't coming out with a book at all, and we're trying to sort that out. But if the book seems way, way too hard, like, for example, if 80% of it is the child is not being able to read at least 80. In fact, when I used to teach, we used to say anything that was sort of 90 to 95% was probably a bit too challenging, really. So it needs to be at least around 90% for the child to be successful. If they're stumbling on every single word, it's probably not the right book for them. If there's a problem with that, do just let Helen know, and she can ask the school to have a look into that for you. As I said, we've got some volunteers that bring a soft toy along. And then cut up sentences. This is one thing I haven't shown you. So what you do is you just get a long strip of paper, write the sentence, and it might be a sentence from the book. So let's just say in the book it says, Sam went to the park. And you think maybe the child has just learnt this by memory because they've read the book several times, because they haven't been given another one. So you would write on this strip of paper, Sam went to the park, and then a full stop. And then you cut it all up and you ask the child to order it correctly for you. Now, that will tell you a lot about whether that child is just memorizing that sentence, or whether they actually do understand that Sam begins with a capital letter goes at the beginning of the sentence, the full stop goes at the end. You ask them to read it and check it makes sense. And if it says, Park Sam went to the, you know that they are really not reading that book to you, and then you can do some work on that. So again, you just need a scrap of paper, some scissors and a pen. It's a really good way of making sure the child is actually reading correctly and not just memorizing. And then the other part is just by talking about the front cover, the blurb. The blurb is the bit of writing on the back of the book that tells you what the book is about, what do they think is going to happen in the book, relate to personal experiences. And doing that before the child even starts reading is a good way to just have a good chat. And instead of going, right, nice to see you again, let's open the book and get started, just a bit more kind of how are you today? Have you had a nice morning? Should we have a look at the front cover? It just sets them up for reading a little bit more. So I'm going to try and stop sharing this now. Come out of this. Okay. Has anybody else got anything that they have done with a reluctant reader that they would like to share? Just feel free to take your mics off.
Hi, Tara. Can you hear me? It's
Hi.
Jane. Hi.
Yes.
I've been taking in word searches, age-appropriate word searches, which focus on the vowel sounds. And the three children I've been reading with have really enjoyed those. And hopefully it helps them to sort of recognize words.
That's a
Um,
really lovely idea. No one's ever said that one before. I'm going to have to
oh,
add that to that slide. I like
but I know
it.
my daughter used to love doing them, and they really enjoy them. And then with a coloured felt pen, they
Oh,
mark them
yes.
out.
It's so funny, isn't it? I mean, children, particularly the children in the schools we're working with, I found all you need to do is give them a coloured pen or a sparkly pen or something that just makes it a little bit more interesting, and they think it's the best thing ever, don't they?
Absolutely.
Hi Tara, it's Kieran. Hello.
Hi, Kieran.
I've got two children that have got speech impediments, and I have found, and actually last term as well, who the children were older,
Oh, so sorry. I've just accidentally muted you. Would you mind taking yourself off mute? I can't seem to do it now. I'm so sorry. I thought someone else had their mic on and we were
can
going to
you
get
hear me now?
feedback. Yes, I'm
Can
so sorry. Please
Okay.
continue.
Well,
Yes, two
I
children.
did it last term as well when I had older children, but I've got two with speech impediments. And I found if I got a rhyming book, if you sing with them, if you point with a pencil at the words as you're reading and you sing with them, they say the words absolutely perfectly. So that's what I've been doing
Interesting.
quite a bit. And they love it because I've got one little
Oh,
girl who really is quite bad and she won't read when she comes out. And if you start singing with her and just say, let's sing together, and we point the words out, she says the words beautifully. And I found that I don't do it all the time, but actually that has been quite helpful.
that's amazing. I love how imaginative you all are. Do you bring your own books for that, or are they books that we happen to
No,
have in the
they're
box?
books at the school, then the ones you provide, but some of them rhyme. And if you read when you're reading a rhyming book, you sort of I feel I want to sing it. And I say to
Yeah.
the children, let's sing it together, and they love it. And they sort of sing with us, with me. And then you've obviously got to point it out as you're reading along. But that has worked very well, especially with the little girl.
That's so lovely. I really like that idea. Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
Has anyone else got anything they'd like to share? Susan? Oh,
Unmute.
you
Come
there we
on,
go.
that's better. I think for a child that really couldn't read, froze when there was words put in front of her, and she was in year 3. So how she'd managed to get that far without the school catching on, I really don't know. But she was very interested in animals, and I used a sticker book
Oh,
that I had with scenes printed on it already, and there were animal stickers in the book, so she could make her own scene with the animals and talk about the animals. I mean, she couldn't really read. If you showed her a letter, grapheme, she just froze. So
yeah.
we talked about animals, and she made up stories using the stickers on the like the background in the book.
And are you
Yeah, I
still
think
reading with her now?
no, she's had a I think she's got some special interventions, and I think she's got an EHCP now.
Okay, yeah.
But
I
she was
remember
doing
talking to
that.
that school about that child actually, and saying that although we really want to support children who are struggling, if a child has such extreme needs that they're not reading at all by the age of year 3, they need a specialist intervention from a specialist teacher, really.
I mean, she didn't want to come with me at all at first, but by the end, we were only together for a term. She was really enthusiastic about coming to the Learn to Love to Read sessions and working with a variety of things, stickers and really discussion about the pictures. And she had really good, I mean, we would just talk about the pictures, not read the word. And I would read the word sometimes, but she was really amazingly intuitive about what was going to happen next without seeing the pictures and the books first. You know, I would say, what do you think might happen next? And her ideas were often much better than the boring book, you know, what would happen next. So, you know, it wasn't, yeah, I don't know what her, you know, what her assessment brought up, but she wasn't averse to books.
Well, that's good. And it sounds like you really helped her actually learn that books can be fun and they're not just
Yeah.
something that are tricky for her to read.
Yeah.
Thank you. Has anyone else got anything they'd like to share?
I just want to say one thing. Jane and I are at the same school, and when we go in, we find in our classes that nearly all the children want to come out and read with us.
That's lovely.
It's quite amazing. They all want to come, and they give us their names. It's really wonderful.
The teachers say we're celebrities.
Oh, well, that's wonderful, isn't it? That's exactly what we want to happen. It doesn't happen in every school, I'm afraid. But, that's wonderful.
Well,
That must
we're
make you feel really special.
We're at a wonderful school, I have to say. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear. Anyone else got anything, or has anyone got any questions about specific children without naming them that they'd like to talk through with everyone? Because someone might have an idea about something that's been a bit of a challenge for you that we might be able to help with. Well, no. If there isn't any, you can always email myself and Helen anyway, if you do ever come across a child who you just have tried everything with and nothing is working, and we'll see what we can come up with as well. But sometimes it's very difficult without meeting the child to know what to suggest, which is why we kind of give all of these ideas, and hopefully there'll be something here today that you think, oh, I could try that with my child, maybe, and that might work. Or if not, I can try that. So hopefully tonight's given you a few ideas of things and has helped you to think about being creative with their interests and about meeting them where they are, really.
Yep. Brilliant.
Helen, have you got anything you wanted to add before we end?
No, not really. Just I think that was really helpful, and it would be great to share with all the rest of the volunteers who aren't here, because quite a few have messaged saying that they couldn't attend the training. We are running it again next week, but it will be really good to share that widely, because I think there are ideas in there, like you say, that people will be able to apply to individual children in a helpful way. So thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tara.
And if you've got any feedback about this training or any other training that you'd like us to provide for volunteers, again, do just email myself or Helen, because we'd always like to know how to best support you, because you do such an amazing job and you give so much of your time and energy. We're so grateful to you. But if there's anything else we can do to support, do let us know.
Tara, thank you very much, Tara.
Oh, Paul, did you have something you wanted to say before we go?
Yes, I want to say thank you very much for some very, very nice, interesting ideas. I find that the half hour that we're allocated goes so quickly that some of these sort of game ideas I think would be quite hard to fit in. But it's given me food for thought about some things that might be quite quick to implement. I don't know what you think of the idea of writing out or printing out words that are very frequently used if you were to take a sentence like, "I like to go to the zoo," you could cut each of those words out with a number of others, and shuffle them around on the table, and see if they could pick them up and make a sentence out of them. And I imagine they could be. You could end up with some quite silly sentences, which would be really good fun
Yeah,
to
that's a
do.
lovely idea. I just say maybe don't have too many words so it's not too overwhelming to them, but that's a lovely idea.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that we don't put sets of cards in the boxes is what I don't want people doing is sort of testing children and going, what's this? What's this? What's this? Because children, just like adults, if I was trying to show you what, like, let's just say you've been learning German for 2 months, and then I was like, right, I'm going to test you. What's this word? What's this word? We don't want that.
No.
And my worry is if we put in sort of just stacks of like the most common words, that sort of thing might happen if people, because not all of our volunteers will come to this training or attend this training beyond their sort of initial training. But also sometimes it's better to pick the words that your particular child needs to focus on rather than just having 50 word cards in there. You might just think, well, does that mean they should know all of those? But actually for some children, they're working on 5 of those words, and some children will know all 50. So that's why we sort of say make your own rather than give you, because you can buy packs of cards or you can print them off the internet, but we've kind of deliberately not done that. But I like what you said. Yeah, that's a really nice idea of putting those and saying, and actually encourage them to do silly sentences. Like
Yes.
say, can you make the silliest sentence you can?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good. But does anybody else think that the time that we have is quite short? I mean, it seems to me to go in no time, and obviously the sessions are punctuated with conversations and relaxing and just getting to know one another better. And yet the teachers seems to say, or maybe think about keeping it to only 20 minutes because they don't have the attention span. The 3 that I'm dealing with, well, 2 of them certainly have a great attention span. One of them, I think she likes to be read a story, but she does freeze when asked to go through the phonics and blending. And I think I've said to you or Helen that she seems very young for her class. She's tiny and just looks like a year behind in her physical growth. So I think she's probably not quite ready for the stage they're thinking she should be at. That's a problem that I can't do anything about. So we can't really get to know everything that's going on in their heads, or why is this girl almost like a rabbit in the headlights when asked to do the analyze a word and read. She will engage with everything else, but why? I don't. Apart from her mental age, or she's the way her brain is working, she's just not ready for reading.
Yeah.
What to do?
Children very quickly, but the teachers are under pressure to get children to certain levels. Now they've got a phonics test at the end of year 1. There's a lot of pressure for pupils to pass this. There's a pass mark. Percentages are shared nationally. Ofsted will look at that. So there's a lot of pressure on schools as well to force children into reading when they're not quite ready, even if they're not quite ready. So I completely hear what you're saying. I guess in terms of the time, part of the reason we can't let people go more than 30 minutes is they're also missing 30 minutes of whatever they're doing in their class. And then that's already quite hard to catch up on. But the schools know that this is such an important intervention and time that it's okay then to miss 30 minutes of history or maths or whatever it is. But actually, if it went on much longer, they'd miss everything in that lesson. all I would say is that a lot of people say that they see a difference in the child and get to know them by going in every week over the year. And they'll often say it's like reading with a totally different child in the summer term to the autumn term. So hopefully by the time you get to the end of the year, you'll be saying to us, do you remember that child I was talking about? She won't stop reading to me now. I hope that happens.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I had some really lovely feedback from a volunteer at one of our schools that she emailed me just yesterday to say she really wanted to send some feedback about a little girl she's been reading with, who's now in year 2, but she's been reading with her since year 1. And she basically said she just felt like for such a long time, the little girl really didn't seem to be making any progress or much progress. And, she stuck with it and it was all about building her confidence, but there didn't seem to be any leaps and bounds. And then suddenly she said, just this morning, I'm struck by how much she's improved recently and her enthusiasm for reading. I'm just looking back at her email. She said she read 2 whole books to me as she wanted to do another one after we did the first one. Then she insisted on starting a third. I'm so happy to see her confidence with reading is finally coming through. And she said she wanted to read this evening at home. So I think it's just about remembering that this is a long game and even if it doesn't feel like they're making that much progress week on week, the time that they're spending with you for half an hour with an adult who is just entirely focused on them and their ability, but also just their enjoyment of reading and their chat and their understanding what they're reading is just so valuable. And it will be making a difference, even if it doesn't feel like it's making that much of a difference week on week.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to ask, are we allowed to use, maybe for 10 minutes, a commercial game like shopping list or building, because there are words in it, those sorts of games. It's a little bit like the bingo, a sort of variations on bingo, but they teach sequencing and colours and things like that.
Yeah, the orchard games, I think you're talking
Yes,
about.
that is what I'm talking about.
I think as long as the child is having some time to read to you and you're having a bit of time to read to them, then if you choose to do that kind of game rather than one of the ones I've shown you today, that's fine, as long as there's some kind of reading or vocabulary development. Yeah. Okay. I think we'll say goodbye for this evening and hopefully we'll see you all at some coffee morning soon or our quiz night perhaps. Some of you are coming to on the 10th of March. And if you've got any problems, please do just email myself or Helen. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.